We have three types of stress that we process in the physical body. We have physical stress, that's like trauma, accidents, injuries, falls. And then you have chemical stress, like toxins or pesticides or pollutants or viruses or bacteria or hangovers or nutritional deficiencies. And then you have emotional stress, right? And emotional stress could be family tragedies, car accidents, second mortgages, single parenting, 401ks, whatever that is. But each one of those things, physical, chemical, or emotional, knock the body out of homeostasis, out of regulation, out of balance. The innate capacity of the body when it's not overstressed is that it wants to always return back and regulate. It wants to return back to homeostasis. It wants to return back to order. And that's kind of innate in us. That's an automatic process that's running through the autonomic nervous system. So we could say the job of the autonomic nervous system is to create balance and regulation and homeostasis, and it's automatic, right? And that part of the brain sits under the thinking neocortex, and it's called the chemical brain, or the emotional brain, or the limbic brain, or the mammalian brain. And it has all of those functions that make blood sugar balanced, hormone levels, digestive enzymes. It's doing what it can to take the body and constantly repair it and regenerate it and move it back into balance. All of those stressors knock the brain and body out of balance, and the innate mechanism, the stress response, brings it back to balance. Well, it just makes sense. If you keep knocking it out of balance over and over again, and you keep moving it out of homeostasis, that imbalance is going to become the new balance, and now you're headed for disease because that automatic system can't regulate order in the body. So a system then is compromised. The system breaks down. And so if it's physical trauma, your body can heal if you rest it. If it's chemical imbalance, you take your pharmaceuticals, or you take your nutraceuticals, your vitamins, your minerals, your herbs, you intermittent fast, you eat a vegan diet, you do anything you can to get the body back so that it's using more energy for growth and repair. So for some people, digestion consumes more energy than the process makes, right? So
really?
They're in a state of constant diminishing returns, right? So when the autonomic nervous system is out of balance and the digestive system is perceiving that there's a threat and danger all the time, in the outer world, the person's living in fear, it's not a time to digest, right? So that system is compromised, right? So then they become very sensitized to the foods they consume because the response constantly from the environment is weakening the organism, right? So they're victim to the environment. So they're more susceptible to have food allergies or whatever it is. So then the person then goes to a diet where they consume less foods that require more energy to break down. So it's like taking a camel in the desert that's fallen and lifting all the packs off it, getting it back up, and then slowly adding the packs back on, right? So people do things to get the body back into chemical balance, and sometimes the refining or changing their diet in some way. And there's thousands of options for that. You got to feel good about it, and you got to believe in it. But the big factor is emotional stress. And
yes.
That's really, for the most part, 75 to 90% of every person that walks into a healthcare facility in the Western world walks in because of psychological or emotional stress. That's
really
pretty much 4 out of 5 people. What's really causing their health condition is that they're emotionally stressed and emotionally out of balance. Okay, so what are the emotions that are connected to the stress hormones? It's anger, it's hatred, it's violence, it's frustration, it's competition, it's control, it's judgment, it's envy, it's jealousy, it's insecurity, it's fear, it's anxiety, it's worry, it's angst, it's hopelessness, it's powerlessness, it's guilt, it's shame, it's unworthiness, and psychology calls these normal human states of consciousness. These are altered states of consciousness. So our response to someone or something in our environment, or our response to our own thought, an image of what could happen in the future, a memory of the past, could actually cause chemicals to be secreted from the brain.
It's crazy.
That causes the body to actually believe it's living in that same environment of fear or danger, right? So
what I'm hearing you say there, just so I'm correct, we can think a thought of our past memory, whether it's true or not, what happened. And
a memory, exactly.
A memory of something that we think happened. It may have happened. It may have been something that we continue to make up that happened, right? But a memory.
50% of that is a lie, so yeah, more than likely.
50% of our memories are lies.
Yeah, they're
right?
not the truth.
Right, right. Or they're expanded into something else, right?
They're embellished.
They're embellished. So we can think of a memory, a painful memory, and we can hold on to that thought, or we can think about something we're worried about in the future that hasn't happened, may never happen.
We could pick some worst case scenario and obsess about it.
And we can obsess about it. And just the thought alone could create an emotion that could make us sick. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because that thought, when you're seeing that thought in your mind or remembering that image, it's the image and the emotion, it's the thought and the feeling, it's the stimulus and response that's immediately conditioning the body into that state of imbalance. So it's a scientific fact that the long-term effects of the hormones of stress push the genetic buttons and create disease. If you can turn on that stress response just by thought alone, your thoughts are literally going to make you sick. Okay,
crazy.
So that's the greatest example of the mind-body connection. So the next fundamental question is, okay, if our thoughts could make us sick, is it possible that my thoughts could make me well? Well, if that's the case, then I'm going to have to manage my attention, and I'm going to have to manage my energy, because where I place my attention is where I place my energy. And I'm going to have to inhibit that thought that has conditioned the body to subconsciously be the mind of that emotion. And the body's so objective that it does not know the difference between the real life experience that's creating that emotion and the emotion that person is fabricating by thought alone. To the body, it's exactly the same. So the body's believing it's being chased by a predator. The body's believing it's in an offensive situation where it has to attack. The body's believing it's constantly needing to be ready, and it's constantly out of homeostasis, it's constantly out of balance. It's in emergency, it's in fight or flight. It's a different system in the autonomic nervous system where you're stepping on the gas, where you're mobilizing enormous amounts of energy for some threat, some danger, real or imagined. But that thought and that feeling, the image, the emotion, the stimulus response is conditioning the body to automatically be the mind of that emotion. So then now the body becomes conditioned and addicted. Now this gets to be a problem because people get addicted to their own thoughts.
It becomes their personality, right?
It is their identity. And they become addicted to the life they don't even like because their response to the coworker, to the boss, to the ex is actually giving them a rush of energy, a rush of adrenaline, and they're associating that rush of energy with some problem or condition in their life. And now come time to change and manage your attention and manage your emotion, it's no different than breaking addiction to anything. There's cravings. The body wants to return back to how it's been conditioned, into the familiar past, into the known.